Hi! So today I'll be showing you how to make RGB stuff. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, stuff that cycles through the entire hue. So like rainbow stuff. But I'll also show you how to do what I do. That, well, not tutorials, but changing color like this, where you change between two different colors, for example, or multiples. Now, let's get to it by messing with this cube. You might notice, but there's nothing left. We've destroyed the world. We cannot undo this action, sadly. However, let's stay happy. Alright, so we have our little cube here. And it might be a little bit hard to see right now, so we'll go to our little dev tip here, and I'll just create new, and materials, and unlit. Unlit. Yeah, and see now we have a beautiful white material, which we'll just select the box here, go to Open Inspector, grab this unlit material, and just slap it right in there. And there we go. Now our cube is finally visible, and no longer really, really dark. All right. Next, we'll simply we'll need a flux tool. Yeah. With the Flux tool, we can then simply open up with Browse Nodes. And here we'll want to go for colors. In here, we have a color hue. And with this little node here, we'll be able to generate a color from a hue value. So these are simple values that go from 0 to 1, essentially. And based on the value, like 0.5, for example, we'll now have yellow, which is, not yellow, cyan, which is red, green, blue, so that's green and blue. Alright, so in order to make it cycle through all of those, we're going to first be needing the world time, which we'll get in time. World time float. And if we plug this in here, you'll see it's already working. However, if you pull this out, you'll notice this is not a 0 to 1 value. Now, why did it say it's basically a 0 to 1 value? That is because as this keeps going, it's essentially repeating. So if it goes from 0 to 1, it's exactly the same as going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, and so on. If we now then grab tint color here, open the inspector, and simply get ourselves a drive, it'll go dark like everything else. Then we'll simply wire this up like this, and we'll notice, oh, it didn't work. And that's because if we go back into the note browser, which we still have open here, and go back to colors, we'll notice that this is color hue, but if we hover over this, we need color X. Now if we go down a bit, we should have here color X hue. Now this is similar to this one, however, it requires a target profile, which by default is sRGB, and we'll just keep it with the default. So if you plug this into here and then pull this out, you'll notice that it has the same values, however, it also has a profile attached, which is sRGB. Now these are simply color profiles, and if we plug this one into here, it'll actually work. Now, that's a bit fast, and it would be a bit obnoxious to have on anything. So what we'll do actually is we'll go to operators, and we'll get ourselves divide. Just do divide color float, and then just hook time into both of them, and we pull out the value. So we overload to a float. Then we divide this simply by 10, and that's going to give us a value that's 10 times as slow. So if we plug this down here, you'll see that now it's actually changing color very slowly. That's a bit slow though, so let's change this to 5. There we go. And now it's changing color a lot more slowly. If we pull out the profile here, we could also change it to linear. Would not change much right now. Now, in order to, instead of doing this, do it for a nice two-color combo or multiple color combo, we'll actually be doing it a little bit differently. Instead of using Flux, we'll be using components. Now, first of all, we'll get rid of this drive here. Then, we'll simply make a new child on the box and open that up. Go into transform, function drivers actually, and then times sign driver. Then we'll go back, go to drivers, go all the way to the bottom, and actually not all the way, but here there's a panner 1D. Now, depending on what kind of cycle you want, you'll either use panner 1D or times sign driver. The difference is that a panner will actually linearly go from point A to point B, and if you set ping pong, it'll go back to point A. If it's not enabled, it'll go from B immediately to A instead of moving back to A normally. Now, to show this off real quickly, I'll make a data value field, and we'll get a float. Plug this into here, into the target. Set our speed to 0.1, so it's a bit easier to follow than 1. And as you can see, we go up, up, up. And as we approach 1, we will just roll over back to 0. However, if we enable ping pong, and we go up, 8, 9, and it's going back down. And that's the difference between ping pong and no ping pong on the panner. Now, this may look great if that's what you want, a linear back and forth, or just rolling around. However, if you want something that looks a bit more organic, you can use a time sign driver and just change this minimum 0 here to, this minimum -1 to a 0. And as you can see, it'll actually go up and down. However, as it approaches the bottom half and the top half, it'll slow down before speeding back up downwards. Now this is because, as its name implies, this is basically just plotting a sine wave, which has this nice curve at the end, and then in between it's a lot steeper. Now we'll actually use time sign for now, but we don't need this value field here. So we'll need to go again to the component attacher, and then we'll need to go to transform drivers. And in here we'll need the value gradient driver of type color X, not color, as explained before. We need specifically color X because the field we're driving is color X. So we'll get color X, and then we simply make 2 points for now. This position will be at 1, this position be at 0. Then we set one color to, for example, red. Nice red, and then the other we'll just set to green by just grabbing the one from red and putting it into the green. Now, then we just plug this right into here, and as you'll see now, the slider will go up, slow down, and go back. And now if we simply grab the tint color here and plug this into the target, you'll see that's actually what it's doing, which is a much nicer movement usually, as with a panner where you just at the exact same speed go back and forth. It's more of like a breathing type behavior. Now, what you can also do with this is we could go from nothing all the way up to something. So now it's basically literally like the breathing setting on any of your RGB stuff. Now what you could also do then is you could actually combine this by grabbing the value here, opening your context menu, and getting a drive for that. Then we get rid of the things we don't need anymore. Align this like this. And instead of driving the value directly, we're going to be driving the end position here. So now, as you can see, we go from nothing up to the RGB and then back down, and back up to the RGB, and back down. And now we have a nice RGB breathing system. Now, you can obviously also add in here some other stuff, like for example, we could add a halfway point in here, where we, for example, if we go back into the Browse Notes section and go to color, oh, I guess I misclicked, color, Oh, colors, sorry. We can get color X, and there should be color X invert. Oh, there, invert color X, sorry. It's spelled the other way around. And then we simply grab this, plug it into here, which will get us the inverse of the color, grab another drive node for the new thing we made here, and just plug that in there. And now you'll see we go between two different colors that are the inverse of each other as we go. Because first it goes from nothing to something, and then back to the thing it was before. However, you might notice, because we're going between an inversion, in the center there's this gray color. It's not really that great, so what we can do to alleviate this, we can just add another point at 0.75, which, if you've not noticed yet, these positions here are when the value happens on the progress. So now we go actually down to nothing, and then to something, and then back down to nothing. And yeah, as you can see, it just blinks for a second, and then we're on this separate cycle. Alright, that is pretty much how you make RGB stuff. All you then have to do is obviously do this, but to your emissives, and once you've hooked that up, it'll just work. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope if you have any recommendations, you'll leave a comment down below. It can be something that you want other people to know about. It can be something that you just want to know about yourself. However, just leave it in the comments below, and I might cover it. If you like this video, I hope you'll leave a like, and well, there's not much left in here. I do hope I see you again. Bye. I hope.